Recording in Hello, good morning. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Are you ready? I'm very poor attendance, only 100 people have come. Shall we start? Hello, shall we start? Okay, we will begin the class. I have shown you the film clip only to tell you that the medical treatment, especially surgical treatment, is ever expanding. Newer and newer surgeries are added to the armamentarium of the surgeon, as well as the methodology, the approach of doing surgery has also changed a lot. Why the people are worried about the surgery means they have to suffer a lot in the post-operative period because of the wound we create on the body of the person. It will be painful, infected, a lot of complications will be there. It results in a scar, all these things will be there. So to minimize the wound complications, the discomfort due to the wound, the access of the surgery, surgical access has been minimized. We are trying to operate only through smaller incisions, only through small holes, putting a small hole in the abdominal wall, obviating the large surgical wound of previous days. So what we do inside is same. How we deal with the organs, how we resect the organs, that is same. Only the access has changed. This is called as minimal access surgery. We are obviating the need to create a large surgical wound, keeping small holes in multiple holes in the abdominal wall, introducing the instruments and operating. Now today we are going to discuss the principles of this minimal access surgery, commonly called as laparoscopic surgery. Laparoscopic surgery means pertains only to the abdomen. So minimal access surgery includes so many things: abdomen, thoracoscopy for the chest, head and neck surgeries, so many things are there. So being a general surgeon, we confine ourselves mostly to the laparoscopy, the access to the abdomen. What is this minimal access surgery? It is a product of modern technology and surgical innovation that aims to accomplish surgical therapeutic goals with minimal somatic and psychological trauma. So everything is same. Achieving surgical goal is same, but it is done with minimal trauma, either bodily trauma or psychological trauma. That is the difference between the open surgery and laparoscopic surgery. The access is minimal. The trauma to the body that is inflicted by the surgery should be minimal, and psychologically also patient feels better. This particular surgery reduces the access wound trauma. Access wound is the wound we create in the body. Though it is done for the betterment of the person with an advantage, still it causes some pain and discomfort to the person. Whereas the accidental wounds, they are unintentional, not gainful to the person, unwanted. Here, wantedly we create the wound, but still it is a wound. It causes all the problems of the wound. This will be less disfiguring, no scar tissue will be there, and it is also cost effective. Cost effective. You may think that the laparoscopy is costlier. Okay, it appears to be costlier in the beginning, but when you take the whole expenditure that is done for the particular surgery, it amounts less. It shortens the operating time, shortens the hospital stays, and at the same time it improves the operative precision. So you will have a good view of the tissue what you are dealing with on the monitor, which is very much magnified. It allows faster recuperation, faster recovery of the person. If we consider all these things, the benefits appears to be more advantageous than the expenditure. The techniques available for us are laparoscopy to deal with the abdomen, thoracoscopy to deal with the chest cavity, lung surgeries, esophageal surgeries, and sympathetic surgery on the sympathetics. All these things can be done by thoracoscopy. Endoluminal endoscopy. You can pass the endoscope through the lumen into the lumen of the bowel, and you can do surgeries there also. Like polypectomies you can do. You can control the bleedings. You can take biopsies. So many procedures. You can inject the varices. So many procedures are done using the endoscope. Perivisceral endoscopy, like in hernia surgeries. Though there is no cavity, you can create a cavity and dissecting the inguinal canal region. Arthroscopy and intra-articular joint surgery. Ortho people will pass the scope into the joint also, and they can operate on the joint. Anything can be combined. All these one or two procedures can be combined depending on the need of the person. What is this laparoscopy? It is a rigid laparoscope is introduced through a port into the peritoneal cavity. Two basic things are needed. One is the laparoscope and a small hole in the abdominal wall for the laparoscope to pass inside. Once you go into the abdominal cavity, see the abdominal cavity, you can pass different instruments through the laparoscope and you can operate on the internal viscera. As soon as the laparoscope is passed inside, it may damage the abdominal viscera because peritoneal cavity is a potential space. Potential space means it can be distended whenever wanted. Really, it does not exist. All the viscera will be in contact with the parietes of the abdomen. So before passing this laparoscope, the cavity has to be expanded. The cavity has to be distended. It has to be insufflated by injecting something like gases, some gases. If you inject the gases which are easily absorbed into the abdominal, into the blood, after the procedure is over, the cavity distends and creates an empty space for your instruments to pass inside and play there. The instruments can be played in the empty space of the distended peritoneal cavity. So that is the second requirement. The commonly used gas is carbon dioxide is insufflated into the cavity, or you can inject filtered air also. But this carbon dioxide is easily absorbed into the blood system and it will be excreted by the lungs. And you can put further ports, any number of ports that are needed. Usually 3 will be put in the initial stages, camera port and 2 playing 5 mm instrument ports, so that these points of ports will make a triangle. So all the instruments will be put in a triangle so that there will be better ergonomics and better manipulation of the instruments. The short-term benefits of laparoscopy are less post-operative pain, short length of stay, and earlier return to the normal cavities. All the wound complications are avoided. The patient can move about within 24 hours. He can be discharged. Less pain will be there. So he can attend his duties early than the open operation. These are the trocars used to make ports in the abdominal cavity. So we inside the skin, which is very tough, all the remaining tissues of the parietes, soft tissues of the parietes can be penetrated by these instruments, trocars. These are the cannulas. This sharp one is the trocar. This sharp one pierces the tissues, just like the anal speculum. We introduce the anal speculum, the speculum is there and obturator will be there. Like that, this trocar, sharp pointed trocar, will pierce the tissues, and as soon as you enter the cavity, you can remove this trocar and this will remain. And these are the instruments. So they need to be very long and slender. Little space is there through the trocar. So the instrument has to be slender and small, but it should be lengthier. At the tip of this, you have the active element. All these tips will resemble the surgical instruments. We have the artery forceps, you have the Babcock's, you have the Alice, you have the thumb forceps, you have the scissor, you have the needle holder. All these regular surgical instruments are miniatured, making into small things and are attached at the distal tip of this long shaft. At the base of the shaft, you have the control. You have the control to play the tip. So that is the beauty of these instruments. They are long and slender. They have miniature surgical instruments at the tip and the control at the base of the instrument. And it can be rotated like 360 degrees. In whatever angle you want, you can rotate this instrument and utilize that. The advantages of minimal access surgery are to the patient, advantages to the patient. So both patient as well as surgeon has got some advantages by doing the laparoscopy. To the patient, they decrease in wound size. So even if you combine all these 3 or 4 ports, they will be up to 1 inch or 1.5 inch only, less than that. So small wounds, multiple wounds will be there. Because there is no wound, major wound, there will be reduction in wound infection, wound adhesions, bleeding, herniation, and nerve entrapment. All these regular complications of surgical wound are not present. Decrease in the wound pain will be there. Improved mobility, patient can move about within 24 hours. Decreased wound trauma, decreased heat loss, improved visualization. So what is this decreased heat loss? This is not a problem in our country where we are in a tropical region. This is a problem for people working in cold countries, temperate climates, cold countries. If you open the entire abdomen for a long time, the body heat will be lost. Patient will go into hypothermia. Hypothermia, if the patient is unlucky, he may land up with the deadly triad. What is this deadly triad? Hypothermia, hypovolemia, and coagulopathy. For any major wounds or major operations, patient should not enter into this deadly triad. Hypovolemia will lead to hypothermia and activates the coagulopathy, extensive thrombosis in the body. All these 3 things, they lead to death of the person. So deadly triad is a really deadly. That will be there for open operations, which are done for a long time, 4 hours, 5 hours, etc. So that is not there in the laparoscopy. Improved visualization will be there. That is for the surgeon, not for the patient. Advantages for the surgeon: better visualization, higher magnification, stereoscopic views. Stereoscopic views. So while doing laparotomy, for example, you are doing the vagotomy, and the surgeon can see the anterior vagus with difficulty retracting the left lobe of the liver with Dever's retractor. And to visualize the posterior vagus, it is very difficult. So there is a limited space. The retractor, if you keep to retract the esophagus, is not possible. You may have to thread the esophagus with umbilical tape and pull it. Still, there is little space. It is not seen clearly. The only thing is you have to put your finger deep inside, by palpation, identify the posterior nerve and hook it up. But here in laparoscopy, the abdominal cavity is distended. You can advance this camera close to the esophagus and beautifully see the posterior vagus also. So even in laparoscopy, open laparoscopy, there are large dark spots, blind areas in abdominal cavity, which you cannot see directly with your naked eye. So such spaces, subdiaphragmatic spaces, deep pelvic cavities, paracolic gutters on the surface of the liver, all these dark areas can be beautifully visualized by just advancing the camera inside. That is the meaning of stereoscopic views. You can advance the camera, tip of the camera into whatever space you want and we inspect that space. And 10% magnification will be there. Magnification will be there. You can see the appendix as large as a cucumber. You can see the appendix like a cucumber. Usually it will be half centimeter to 1 centimeter in diameter, a slender thing. That can be beautifully seen on the screen as a large one. And you can see small bleeding points beautifully and identify them and cauterize them or ligate them. Second advantage is elimination of hand tremor. So if you have a fine hand tremor where you feel difficulty to do the open surgery, that is avoided by using this laparoscopy. You can take some support of the handle side, and the tip of the active tip of the instrument will not have the tremor. And improved maneuvering. I said this can be rotated 360 degrees. The working element of the laparoscopy instrument can be rotated 360 degrees. So just like the robotic wrist, you have the free hand movement, you have the free instrument movement, just like the hand. These 7 degrees of freedom are described in relation to the robotic arm. So our human body is very well highly engineered structure. Highly engineered structure, highly developed structure, human hand. Next to the brain, this is the highly developed, evolved, and designed structure. So you can do anything, you can move the hand and fingers in any direction, in any combinations, you can rotate it in any way. So just like that, this robotic arm is almost resembles our human hand. So you have the improved maneuvering. You can adjust the instrument, twist the instrument, rotate the instrument in whatever way you want and do the operation safely. Surgeon is able to work in an ergonomic environment, less stress and higher levels of concentration will be there. So you need not worry about the maneuverability or the access of the viscera is not properly there. The assistant is not retracting properly, and there will be a lot of bleeding. All these problems will be obviated. They will be lessened while doing the laparoscopy because there is magnification, a lot of space is there, the access is there, and you can operate in a stress-free environment. You can concentrate more on the procedure rather than on the acquisition of these facilities. Less need for assistance once surgery is underway. Once you are underway on surgery, less assistance is needed. Automatic machines will be there, which will be maintained in the pneumoperitoneum. The camera man will be showing the camera, and you can do the operations. So these are all the advantages for this surgery. There are limitations for this minimal access surgery also. Though it is highly evolved, there are limitations. You have to rely more on remote vision and operating. So your vision, your eye is not close to the viscera. It is well away from. You have to see from a distance and operate. And you lack this tactile feedback. This is very, very important. The surgeon's hand has been replaced by the insensate, inanimate object. The tactile feedback is there. Your hand is highly evolved, I said. If you touch the tissue, you can say whether it is healthy, unhealthy, or it is a dead one. Without looking at the tissue, just by touch, you can say whether it is a living thing, or it is a pathological thing, or it is an almost dead thing. That is not there with the instrument. Whatever you touch it, you just touch it. You cannot say whether it is good or bad, whether it is indurated or soft, whether it is solid or cystic. All this human touch is not there in the laparoscopy. That is the greatest disadvantage of this laparoscopy. And you have to practice the hand-eye coordination. So the input is to the hand, into the eye, output is through the hand. So these two things must be coordinated. Because since birth, we are practicing this hand-eye coordination. So you see something, you pass your hand and catch something, the same thing. So coordination is there. If you want to catch a ball, you see the ball with your eye and your hand automatically will go to that particular object of the ball. It will not overshoot or it will not undershoot. So that is the meaning of the hand-eye coordination. That is being practiced by all of us unknowingly since birth. We take it as the basic instinct of our human development. Here what happened is our particular hand has been replaced by an inanimate object or the instrument. So this coordination will be a little disturbed with this. So you have to practice this hand-eye coordination to work with the instrument. So lack of tactile sensibility and the hand-eye coordination are the greatest disadvantages of this laparoscopy and also this robotic surgery. So they are inhuman. The human touch has been lost. Then difficulty with hemostasis. So because of magnification, the small capillary wounds, the arteriolar wounds also appears very big. You will be disturbed, you will be frightened up. So that is the problem with hemostasis. A little bleeding will appear very large and you will be perturbed by the bleeding. And you have to rely on a new technique. Laparoscopic operation is a new technique. Almost it's still in the developing stage. New techniques are being developed. So you have to depend on a new technique. And lastly, the extraction of large specimens is problematic. So you have separated the tumor from the some internal viscera and how to remove it to the outside environment. So it is a problem. Hysterectomy, you have done ovarian cyst, you have excised, you have done gastrectomy, you have done cholecystectomy, you have done appendicectomy. So everything is over. How to take it back, take it out? That is the problem. For large appendix is easy, you can remove it. Gallbladder, if it is distended, you can just aspirate the gallbladder, make it thin, and you can pull it out through the umbilical cord. But these larger specimens, they need again an incision to extract them outside. And there are ways, people have developed ways of fulgurating these excised specimens in a bag. They will put a plastic bag inside. They keep the excised viscera in the plastic bag and pulverize, make it into small pieces, and they can aspirate this or gently pull out this bag outside. So nowadays they are saying this pulverization should not be done because instances have occurred where the cells have spread into the peritoneal cavity, spilled into the peritoneal cavity, leading to multiple secondaries. If it is a tumor, multiple secondaries, peritoneuomatosis has occurred. Instances have occurred, so they are discouraging this technique of pulverization. You can, after everything is over, you can just make an incision of 1 inch in the lower abdominal wall and extract the specimen. That appears to be better than this pulverization and risking the carcinomatosis peritoneum. With this technical introduction, then how to prepare the patient? It is just like any other operation. Pre-operative preparation includes preparation of the patient, take the history, do the examination, give the pre-medication to the person to alleviate the anxiety. Though it is laparoscopy and you have explained the patient that there will not be any cut on the body, still the patient feels anxious because he is being operated, not us. His body is being subjected to various cuttings and suturings, etc. So he will be tense. So you to alleviate this tense, pre-medication, anxiolytic drugs, mild sedation has to be given to the patient. And this is going to take a long time. Patient is immobilized. He remains in immobilized condition for long hours together. There will be stasis in the venous system of the lower part of the body, the legs, and there may be activation of the virtuous triad and thromboembolism. So to avoid this, you take the care of thromboembolism by pneumatic compression stockings, or you can give some heparin-like thing, anticoagulants. So take some precaution against this thromboembolism. And patient has to be catheterized. So if the bladder is full, it occupies some space in the abdominal cavity. It may hamper the visualization of the peritoneum, the pelvic cavity. So bladder has to be catheterized and nasogastric tubes has to be kept. The stomach also, which is a distensible organ, has to be kept empty by putting a nasogastric tube. And of course, the informed consent has to be taken by the person. Preoperative examination has to be done regarding all the systemic diseases, jaundice, lung problems, scars, etc. Prophylaxis against thromboembolism will be taken. So you are keeping the patient in the reverse Trendelenburg position. Foot end of the table will be up so that the intestine will fall into subdiaphragmatic space and a lot of space available in the lower part. Lengthy operation, laparoscopy takes more time, and most of these people are obese. We select obese people for doing laparoscopy because open operation will be very difficult in a obese person. How to avoid this thromboembolism? You can give subcutaneous low molecular weight heparin. Low molecular weight heparin. Regular heparin can also be given, but if you give regular heparin, laboratory control of this coagulation profile must be there. If you give low molecular weight heparin, they will not alter the coagulation profile that much. You need not have the laboratory control. Then anti-thromboembolic stockings can be applied to the limbs. Just like the air bed, the pressure in these stockings will be changing. Alternatively, there will be more pressure and again it will be deflated. So this will be creating like a massaging effect on the calf muscle, encouraging the blood flow, avoiding stasis of the veins. Pneumatic leggings, so many things are available to take care of to prevent the thromboembolism. Catheters and nasogastric tubes, all the distensible organs of the abdominal cavity, bladder, rectum, and stomach have to be kept empty. After doing this, we have to introduce the venous needle. So the theater and equipment, what we need for doing laparoscopy are the LCD monitor or high definition monitors. A good quality monitor is needed. The lab kit for maintaining the pneumoperitoneum. So first you insufflate the carbon dioxide into the cavity that will be leaking at so many places, that will be getting absorbed into the system. So the pressure gradually falls in the peritoneal cavity. That has to be kept up by continuous insufflation of the gas, whatever gas it is, air or gas, it should be continuously insufflated. If we continuously insufflate, intra-abdominal pressure will rise tremendously. It will compress the inferior vena cava, decrease the venous return, and patient will go into shock. So a balance must be achieved between the dilatation of the cavity and the intra-abdominal pressure without causing venous compression. So intraperitoneal cavity, the pressure should be maintained at 12 to 13 millimeters of mercury. 12 to 13 millimeters of mercury. So to maintain this, somebody has to check the leakage of the gas and again re-insufflate. All these things will be done by this lab kit. It will be checking the pressure. Whenever pressure falls, it insufflates the gas. Then audio visual kits should be there. the cameras, etc., which will be there for visualization. DVD for recording and cameras must be there. Charged CCTV means charged coupled device. Charged coupled device which is kept at the tip of this laparoscopic camera or the endoscopic camera, which will act like a camera, lens of the camera. Now the general principles for laparoscopic thoracoscopy. They are not purely a less invasive equivalent of an open operation. There are different errors and injuries can happen by doing this laparoscopy and thoracoscopy. They are not just minimized miniature instruments or miniature technique of the operating. They have got their own principles, they have got their own disadvantages. So the only thing that is changed is regarding the access only. Instead of cutting the abdominal cavity for a length, you keep a small hole and introduce. Whatever you do inside with the hand or with the instrument is essentially same. The dealing with the viscera is essentially same. Only the access is different. Now, how to create a pneumoperitoneum? There are two methods of creating pneumoperitoneum: open method and closed method. The regular method is the closed method. So, after killing the abdomen, the assistant and the surgeon will catch hold of the abdominal wall with their left hand and lift it up. So that it is well away from the intestine inside. Then taking a needle called blind tipped needle called Veress needle, after incising the skin, making a small hole in the skin of the umbilicus. Through this hole, by screwing movements, rotating movements or screwing movements, they will introduce this blind tip needle called as Veress needle into the peritoneal cavity. And if you move this needle like this way and that way, if it moves freely, that means the tip of the needle is in the peritoneal cavity. Then you can inject the air or the carbon dioxide into the peritoneal cavity, distending the peritoneum. Once the gas is inside, the intestine and the parietal wall, abdominal wall, gets separated. Then after the entire peritoneal cavity is distended and full, you can remove this Veress needle through the same incision, same port. You can introduce a large size trocar. Large size trocar is introduced safely into the peritoneal cavity. Through this trocar, you introduce the camera and inspect the inside. Camera is introduced and the abdominal cavity is inspected. Then, after confirming the pathology, depending on the procedure to do, you decide how many extra ports are needed, and under vision by looking through the laparoscopy, you can introduce any number of ports you want under vision safely. The first port is taken blindly at the umbilicus. Remaining ports are introduced under vision. So this is the closed method, blind puncture using a Veress needle. If you have practiced it, if you are experienced, this is a fast and relatively safe method. There is potential for intestinal and vascular injury. If you have got not control on your hand, and if your hand is pushed suddenly inside, the needle will go and touch the abdominal aorta. You are introducing at the umbilical level, aorta will be there. So many instances have occurred where the trocar has hit the aorta and punctured it, and immediate laparotomy has to be done to save the patient. So such dangerous things have happened. So you must practice it very nicely. And to avoid this sudden slipping, sudden give way of this instrument, we have to introduce it by rotating movements, screwing movements. This is the needle. Tip is blind, you can observe. Tip is blind. The hole will be just like Foley's catheter, the hole will be somewhere here, proximal to the tip. Then open method. So if there are a lot of scars and you expect adhesions inside, the closed method or the blind method is dangerous. In such conditions, you can go for this open method. Give a small incision in the skin. You separate the fatty tissue by artery forceps. You see the rectus sheath or linea alba. You insert the linea alba under vision and separate this thing by artery forceps. You catch hold of the peritoneum and open the peritoneum with scissors under vision. This is just like doing the laparotomy at very miniature level. We cut the skin, we cut linea alba, we cut the peritoneum. Those are the steps in open method of laparotomy. The same thing is done at very miniature level, sub-centimeter level. Small skin incision, separate the fat, small incision in the linea alba, catch hold of the peritoneum and open it. It's a safe method. Then after this, we can introduce this blind tip. It's not sharp tip, but blind tip trocars called as Hassan's trocar. This is called a Hassan's method. Hassan's trocar or blind tip. Even if you touch the intestine, they will not perforate the intestine. Because there is already a wound, a way is made, even it is blind, it can be introduced safely. Another new advance is optical entry under direct vision. When these are not, when routine things are not safe, under vision, step by step, you can pass the camera and perforate the abdominal wall. Why we introduce the first port through the umbilicus? It is because it is reliable anatomical landmark, fixed anatomical landmark, where there is coalescence of rectus sheath and peritoneum. So the thickness of the abdominal wall is very least at the umbilicus. The peritoneum is densely adherent to the rectus sheath, and the thickness of this linea alba is very thin. So the distance you have to traverse is very less at the umbilicus. And it is devoid of myofascial planes. No planes will be there. The air what we insufflate will not go into the layers of the abdominal wall, extraperitoneal muscle and subcutaneous planes, creating a subcutaneous emphysema. That will not happen if you do the insufflation through the umbilical, because it is densely adherent there. Because of these reasons, we put the first port through the umbilicus only. This is sharp trocar used for blind method. You can see the tip is very sharp and penetrating. This is Hassan's blunt trocar. The tip is blunt. With knife, you make a small hole, then introduce this. Then what are the problems encountered during laparoscopy? If there was previous abdominal surgery, a lot of adhesions you have to expect. In such cases, open technique is safer than the blind technique. After making an opening in the peritoneum, instead of instrument, you pass your little finger. See whether the surrounding area is clean or not. There may be adhesions there at that point also. We don't know. So you put your finger first, try to see what is there out in the periphery of the opening. If nothing is there, if a clear space is encountered, then you can introduce the cannula, Hassan's cannula. When patient is obese, technical difficulties may be there in obtaining the pneumoperitoneum, in reaching the operative region adequately. The length of the instrument may become inadequate, in morbid obesity. The distance from the skin to the viscera will be very great, and our routine instruments will not be adequate. We may have to design still more lengthier instruments. Achieving adequate exposure in the presence of obese colon is also problematic. The increased thickness of the subcutaneous fat makes insufflation more difficult. So there will be more pressure. You have to stretch a thick and thicker abdominal wall in obese people. So more pressure, more difficulty to stretch the abdominal wall will be present. So that is not that easy to create the pneumoperitoneum in obese people. Other dangers are intraoperative perforation of the viscus. While introducing these instruments, if you are not careful, if you are not introduced the instruments under vision, whenever the second port is being made and second instrument is being introduced into the cavity, the camera should be focusing the point of entry. You should not introduce any instrument blindly except the camera. It can perforate any viscus such as the bowel, solid organ, blood vessel, including aorta. It is a potential hazard of using laparoscopic approach. This will be minimized with surgical experience, education and preparation and patient selection. You have to select the correct type of patient for the procedure, prepare him adequately, and you have to practice and you have to gain experience. With that only, you will avoid the complications of this laparoscopy. Second problem is bleeding, dealing with the bleeding. This is the most common cause of conversion from laparoscopy to the open operation. When you cannot control the bleeding adequately and rapidly with laparoscopy, you should not waste any time. It will lead to loss of blood and patient will go into hypovolemia and shock, endangering the life. So there you have to take the correct decision and convert the procedure into an open procedure and control the bleeding. This has to be explained to the patient in all the cases. There are chances of conversion. Bleeding has got an important role in the laparoscopic surgery. The limited field will be obscured by even small amounts of blood. So the cavity is filled with blood, you cannot see anything. The magnification of small vessels will disturb the surgeon. Even a small vessel appears very large and it perturbs the concentration of the surgeon. And light will be absorbed with the blood and the field becomes dark. And the blood clot and comes and closes the lens of the camera, nothing can be seen. So many problems are there with bleeding while doing laparoscopy. So whenever you are introducing these things, you must take care that you should not pierce any viscera in the abdominal wall. And in the cavity, when dissecting, even the smallest bleeding point has to be taken care first, then before proceeding to the further part of the dissection. All the bleeding points must be either cauterized or ligated. Then you proceed with the process. Otherwise, this bleeding will obscure the field and cause a lot of difficulty in continuing the dissection of the tissues. How to avoid this bleeding? Prevention is better. This is accomplished by identifying risk factors for bleeding. You must check the coagulation profile before surgery. Clear understanding of the laparoscopic anatomy. You must be thorough with the anatomy of the body. And employing careful surgical technique. You must be careful. You must avoid piercing the vessels. You must control the smallest bleeding point also. Before proceeding further, you must maintain the clean operating environment, clear operating environment, so that you can see the viscera, examine the viscera carefully. That's why you have used the high definition monitors. We said high definition monitors, which will give you the clear image, The risk factors are same: cirrhosis, inflammatory conditions, acute cholecystitis, and diverticulitis. Inflammatory areas, they have vasodilatation, they bleed more. When the patient is on clopidogrel and dipyridamole, antiplatelet agents, they bleed more. If they have coagulation defects, they bleed more. All these things to be controlled before preoperatively, before going for surgery. All these are contraindications to laparoscopic procedure. First, they have to be taken care of. When the coagulation is under control, you have to go for the procedure. The bleeding can occur from a major vessel or from the port site or from the viscera. You have to search these sites and control the bleeding. This is one way how to control bleeding from a torn vessel. While introducing the stroke, this parietal vessel has been cut into two and it starts bleeding. So it has to be controlled by passing thread from the exterior into the cavity and again upwards and has to be ligated. Next thing is electrosurgical injuries. For majority of the part, they are using the cautery to deal with the bleeding points. So because of this limited appearance or limited scope, without seeing at it, you may cauterize the normal structures also like intestines. So all these cautery instruments has to be guarded. So you have seen a black colored coating on all the laparoscopic instruments. Only the tip will be exposed. So that is a non-conducting sheath will be there. Even if you touch the intestine with this sheath, the current will not pass. Insulating effect will be there. If this is damaged, then you can damage all the viscera of the body. If you see this, you can understand how this electrosurgical damage will occur. Your vision will be here, field of vision will be here. You are visualizing gallbladder. You are not looking at this place. When you apply the current, so through this uninsulated part of the instrument, current will pass through the colon and it will damage. It will become necrose and second day or third day, it perforates leading to peritonitis. So you must be very careful while doing the laparoscopy because the field of vision will be limited. Post-operative care is very similar to the areas of open operation. All the complications, post-operative complications of lung complications, wound infections, port site infection, all these things will be there. You have to take care of them. And one more extra caution is, if the person is not doing well on the next post-operative day or second post-operative day, though there are no particular complaints, he is not well, pulse is fast, a little rise of temperature is there, consciousness is a little altered. In all such cases, you must suspect some problem is there. Early suspicion is needed in these cases. So you have to investigate the person, do the ultrasonogram or CT scan to look for any collection in the peroneal cavity. If needed, is there any something coming out of the drains if they are kept, like bile or blood or fecal matter? In such cases, early action has to be taken. You may have to do the re-laparoscopy or do the laparotomy if needed to save the life of the person. So early suspicion and early action are needed to avoid the post-operative complications after laparoscopy. And surgical principles are same and they have to be observed. Patient can be discharged from the hospital based on the clinical indicators and their fitness for recuperating. Before discharging this patient early after 24 hours, you must thoroughly check the patient and see he is recovering well. No suspicion of any complications is there. Then only you have to discharge the patient. Otherwise, keep him for some more time under observation in the hospital. Don't be hasty at discharging the patient thinking that it is a laparoscopy. So you have to examine thoroughly no complication, everything is okay, then only you have to discharge. Skin sutures applied for the 4 sites can be removed after 7 days. The examples of surgeries done by laparoscopy are minimal access surgery, cholecystectomy, inguinal hernia, anti-reflux surgery, Nissan's fundoplication, appendix, bariatric surgery. That means decreasing the size of the sleeve, gastrectomies, colectomy, anti-section can be done. Upper GI surgery can be done, colectomy, gastrectomy, splenectomy, nephrectomy, adrenectomy, almost any surgery can be done using this laparoscopic or minimal access techniques. We can deal with emergency situations also like laparoscopic appendicectomy, closure of perforated duodenal ulcer or acute cholecystitis cases, intestinal obstruction secondary to adhesions can be dealt with. Strangulated hernia, small strangulated hernias can also be dealt with. Release the constriction. If the bowel is gangrenous, make a small hole, remove the loop, do the anastomies outside and keep it inside. The further developments that have made minimally invasive surgery even less invasive is without the ports. Even the ports are also avoided. That type of surgery is called as the nodes. Natural orifice, transluminal, endoscopic surgery. No port is kept here. You can pass the gastroscope, make a hole in the anterior wall of the stomach, enter the peritoneal cavity, remove the gallbladder, remove the appendix, and do whatever you want, like the laparoscope. And you can do posterior colpotomy, introduce the scope into the cavity, do the cholecystectomy, do the ovarian operation, all those things. Like that, natural orifices of the body has been selected as a portal of entry without artificial ports. That type of surgery is called as nodes, natural orifice, transluminal, endoscopic surgery. Another thing is single incision laparoscopic surgery. So instead of 3 or 4 ports, all these instruments are passed through the umbilical port only. A large trocar is passed through the umbilicus and the camera is passed through the remaining space. All these instruments are passed and surgery is done. Single incision laparoscopic surgery. So that further advances of the laparoscopic or minimal access surgery. So with this, we stop this class and all my portion has been covered. So this is my last class and some other professor will take the classes from the next class onwards. Regarding my topics, if you have any doubt, at any time you can call me, you can ask me, you can come to my room and ask me regarding any doubt regarding my topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.